I just wanted to make a quick video on the dismantling of this Rotel amplifier RA-314. So on the bottom of this amplifier there's quite a bit of corrosion just on the bottom of this chassis. Same on the other side. So to remove this from the wooden case, essentially it's a question of removing simply the 4 screws at these points, as so, and these screws screw into the bottom of the chassis here, and as soon as those screws are removed it should be possible to remove the chassis from the wooden case. This is what the inside of the wooden case looks like, but I found that my particular corroded chassis was quite firmly attached at these points here. So in order to get the thing moving, what I did was to take a putty knife and simply insert it into the back of the wooden case and run it down the corroded bottom chassis leg, and that allowed me to remove the chassis and the electronics from the wooden case. And what we'll do, we'll just have a quick look inside the chassis at the electronics. I suspect this unit hasn't been opened for many years, I'm no expert, and you can see quite a few cobwebs and other foreign material. There's a couple of fuses on the board there that I'm going to check. I'm going to give it a hoover out and a good brush with a vacuum cleaner. This at the back is the heatsink for the transistors, which will get hot during the operation of the device, which I haven't tested yet. The heat sinks are coupled to the transistors with thermal paste and screwed firmly to the heatsink. So before turning the appliance on, I've chosen to dismantle it, etc., and just check there's no surprises, check the fuses. Before attaching this to the mains, it's prudent to put a load on the speaker outlet, a sort of 8 ohm load on the speaker outlet, and ideally you should power these up using a variable power supply called a variac, with numerous other precautions if it hasn't been powered up in many years. You can download the schematic for these devices on the internet. There is a site called Hi-Fi Engine that produces a lot of schematics. That's certainly worth checking out. Okay, I'll sign off for now, and if any surprises prop up during the recommissioning of this, I'll post again. Cheers. One of the problems with this Rotel unit, there's no backlighting at all for the wattage meters after powering it up. So I'm just going to check as to whether either of these backlights, what appear to be backlights, have blown. Let's take one out and see. It's difficult to say if that's intact or not. I think I'm going to have a really good look on this on camera and off camera and see if that's gone. I mean, that looks okay to me. Maybe it's something else on the circuit that causes it not to work. Well, I've powered the unit up. My consumer unit is protected by a residual current device, so hopefully I won't get a lethal electric shock off this, but obviously, you know, do be extremely careful powering up these devices and not being cautious, because they do contain lethal voltages. So what you can see is actually, after removing and replacing each one of these extremely fine filament lights, the filament lights are now both lighting up, and both of the front LEDs are now illuminating. So I'll just power it off, and you can see how it powers down, and then powering it on, both of them light up. So that's great, because they weren't working. I think it's just simply oxidation building up on the connections, and just a simple removing them and replacing them gets the unit working again. One more word of warning on these units is, I'm sure I've spotted a rusty staple loose within the circuitry. So I think what has happened is that the top grill has been removed by somebody at one point, and that this grill has at one time had staples in it, and when the grill has been removed, the staples haven't been thoroughly removed at the same time, and these corroded staples have then had the potential to drop into the unit, and if these were to cause a short circuit, I understand it can damage these units. So again, if you find that some of the staples are corroded, and certainly on the bottom plate, condensation has got to this unit and caused quite a bit of corrosion, it's definitely worth checking out as to whether any of these staples has fractured off and landed on your circuit board. Just another word of caution. So I've got the front of this chassis. It's basically 6 screws, each screw being in a recess. There's 3 across the top and the bottom, with 3 corresponding holes in the chassis. And one thing that I noticed is that these little wattage meters do tend to fall out of the corresponding part, which is somehow adhered into the faceplate, and clearly all the tape has just aged and come away. So that all needs to be replaced, something to be aware of. So I'm going to have a go at taping this faceplate back into its holder, so it's supposed to fit. Something like that. So I'll try and tape it up.